For 15 years, DJ Bob has been your go-to source for pop culture, past and present. We eat, sleep, and breathe pop culture, just like you. He's interviewed countless fascinating people, from well-known names to everyday heroes.
DJ Bob connects with his guests on a personal level, exploring their stories, passions, and challenges.
He's not just interviewing, he's building a community of like-minded, inspiring, driven, and talented individuals.
Join DJ Bob as he delves into the world of entertainment and the conversations that matter on all levels. This is the DJ Bob Show. Roll it.
We've been interviewing a lot of book authors lately, but this one is a very special one because his books are so whimsical, wacky, and fun with a lot of heart. Matt Bingel here.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
And Marty Monster here.
I'm here somewhere. Hi.
And why don't you, Matt, tell us about our guest today?
Our guest today is a New York Times bestseller. He has a brand new book out called Miss Pennypickle's Puzzle Quest. I know it sounds like a tongue twister, but it's really not. Think of this book. If you've seen the show The Amazing Race, think of this in book form, only no bungee jumping. It's filled with a lot of fun puzzles, too. Think of it as a road trip trope kind of thing. It's about two brothers who don't really get along, but decide to go on this road trip before one of them goes off to college. Again, the book is entitled Miss Pennypickle's Puzzle Quest. It is by the New York Times bestseller Chris Grabenstein, and we go into the references of this book, again, the road trip trope, and just how fun and interactive this book is, because you get to figure out the puzzles too, and hopefully before the characters do. They give you a little bit of time before the answer is revealed. So definitely check this out. It comes out on the 14th of October by Random House. And shall we get into it?
And Marty, you got to hang out a little bit too.
I did. I made a little cameo at the end of this. It's a very fun book, and as Matt said, it's very interactive for the little ones, and I hope you enjoy this book. We all do, actually, but yeah, hope you enjoy this book and hope you enjoy this chat.
Yeah, we'll throw it to our conversation with Chris right now. There's the disembodied voice, yes. Okay, so Chris, first of all, it's so great to have you here. Matt and I love your writing style and your books, and we're so happy to have you today.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on your show.
So the way I typically start these things off is kind of in a fun way. What is your elevator pitch?
I say that I started out writing for adults and then soon realized I was still 12 years old in my head and started writing books for kids. So I've now got close to 72, 73 books have been published, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Well, that is the perfect elevator ride, and I'm glad that we didn't get stuck in the process.
Nope.
I'm glad we made it to the top floor.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So this new book is kind of an extension of your whimsical and weird sensibilities, but it's also got a lot of heart. Would you like to kind of tell the audience briefly about your new book before we dig deeper?
Sure. The new book's called Ms. Pennypickle's Puzzle Quest, and it kind of was inspired by a trip that I took when I was I wasn't old enough to drive. I remember I was like 14 or 15, and my two big brothers agreed to take me on a cross-country trip one like the week before Christmas one winter. We drove from Tennessee to the Grand Canyon. And I've always been fascinated by the dynamics about brothers and how they get along. And in this book, we have two brothers who are separated by 6 years. That's also something else that's fascinated me to be like a tween and have a brother who's about ready to go to college. And can they get along long enough to go on this race and maybe win $1 million?
And that is the thing that kind of drew us in. I know when I read Matt the plot initially when I I found it on a list of books to check out. And that's the kind of plot point that sucked me into this. So, Matt, is there anything you'd like to say about this book? Because you read it a lot
It's
too, and you love it.
I loved it.
Thank you.
In the in not necessarily on the back of the book, but a thing described it as the Amazing Race with less bungee jumps, which I love. I love. I've been watching the Amazing Race for many years, so
I think my
uh,
wife and I have watched almost all. I think there's 2 seasons we haven't seen yet, and yeah, I could not do those bungee jumping that they do. But they some
no,
no.
no, nope.
Okay, that's when I'd quit. See ya, honey. Enjoy. You
No, I
know?
love that because it's adventurous,
Yeah.
just like the Amazing Race, it is adventure. For those who have not heard about the Amazing Race, which you should, as of the time of recording, their new season starts up soon again. But it's basically a world trip. It's a race. That's why it's called the Amazing Race on race across the world. And like I said, I've loved it since I was a kid, but I love it. Also reminds me of a Goofy movie a little bit because of the cross country stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. And
There's
I
kind
It
of
think
really
some
is.
road trip tropes in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mad World and some of those the Gumball Rally. I remember I watched that when I was working on this just to get in that spirit of kind of zany road races. And what's kind of fun is the kids are on their own. The two brothers, the one brother's 18, so he's close. When I was growing up, 18 was an adult. So he's close enough to be an adult that he can go on his own. And that's always great when you can come up with situations where the kids have sort of agency. Is that the word they use now? But they can do stuff on their own without helicopter parents hovering around.
yeah, and the thing that I really latched on, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is the level of the level of heart in this book. There's a lot of like heart to heart moments between the brothers, and it's just what is the balance like for you? Because just in this conversation alone, you are, a goofy, fun guy, and we love getting to know you. But what is that balance of like making sure that it's not wall to wall jokes or humor?
Yeah, I guess that's just something that I've always had an instinct for, I'll say, maybe because I spent a lot of time when I was younger doing theater and acting in plays. And if you're just getting laugh, 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 that's okay. But if you're really touching some emotional core with the laughs, then that's even better. So a lot of the books I've written in the past with James Patterson, we always make sure that we put some heart in there. Same with my Lemoncello books, Dog Squad, Smartest Kid in the Universe. I guess there's something old sentimental sap inside this Joker here
But
that
that's such a great thing because so many authors really use that humor as their one trick in all that they have, and it's so nice to see that kind of the two kind of sentiments wrapped into one sentence or page. It's like it really it really warrants itself to be a good experience for everyone.
Oh, great. That's what I'm trying to do always. Some people always say I write with humor and heart, the two H's. So I think you need both. Otherwise, it can get a little tedious, just joke, 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 joke.
So this book is kind of I mean, all of your books kind of have that humor-centric, kind of whimsical, weird, but I feel like this book is very different for you because it's exercising all of these ideas and these themes. So what did working on this book teach you about yourself and the dynamic, with family and those close to you?
Yeah, I mean, I really look back now that it was really nice of my brothers to take me on that trip, and we did bond over it, and it's something that we've all always remembered on that trip because we had our little Volkswagen Beetle, and we were camping most of the way. I think we stayed in one motel one because the ground was frozen. We hadn't planned on that part of the camping where you put your tent on frozen ground, and we didn't want to shovel all the snow out. So I remember a couple nights were really cold. But it does, there's something about brothers. And I have four brothers, and my mom and dad had five boys in 7 years. So in a way, we were always really close because we were always like playing together, playing board games together, which is the inspiration for the Limoncello books. And
Yeah.
I guess there's just a strong sense of that family and how important that is. And the older brother in the book needs to learn that. I mean, he's an older brother, and his younger brother keeps saying the wrong thing in front of all of his girlfriends, and so there's a bit of tension between them at the start. But I really love how they grow together at the end.
I do too, and that was really because I have two older sisters, so I kind of related to that mentality of like, having people in your life that have been through it before you have and experienced things, but you find this commonality with whatever it is.
Yeah, and I like also that they both start to grow to respect the other one's talents. Like, oh yeah, you're better at that than I am, so that they work together. So maybe it's just doing it as a family setting that brought out more heart than in some. But I try to get heart into all my stories. I think going back, I'm thinking about I Funny, which there's some stuff in that. If you read that book, you'll be crying. And the Shine, which I wrote with my wife, also has a lot of heart in it. So yeah, it's kind of a Chris Grabenstein trademark there.
Well, I'm so glad that the audiences are about to see this and read this and check it out.
Oh yeah, and all the references in there too are great too. Like one line in the book, that Chevy is so old it used to go to Burger King when he was still a prince. It's those older references because my grandparents grew up in the 50s. They were married, I think, in 1956 on my mom's side. So
Uh-huh.
very relatable on that forefront. So what speaking of balance, what was kind of the balance for you between kind of new and old in that aspect?
Well, I thought kids probably aren't that familiar with Route 66, and I wasn't as familiar with it when I started the book as I was when I finished the book. So there's I've always been. In fact, I have a whole series called Welcome to Wonderland about kitschy motels in Florida. So I've always been fascinated by roadside attractions, by the big muffler men that are turned into Paul Bunyan. And I'm working on the second Pennypickle book, and there's one, a big lady holding a pie in the sky. So I just love all that kind of roadside Americana, sort of small scale roadside attractions that we don't have very much anymore. So I've been hearing from some of the early readers that they love all the details about Route 66. Some people are planning a trip down Route 66.
Don't you love that you're creating? Yeah, back to the other thing. People reading this book will have their own memories because of your book,
Mm-hmm.
and that's got to be really, really great for you and your audience. And
Yeah, I love hearing from my audience, but I guess I'm really nice. But there's we get teary-eyed around here with some of the emails we get. A lot because I write for the reluctant reader that I used to be. I like to think I was a super critical reader. I just wanted to read stuff that got like a movie projector going in my brain, a story I didn't want to put down. So when I write these books, I'm trying to write for that kid who thinks they don't like to read. They just haven't found the right book to get them excited yet. So
Okay.
that's why we put a lot of puzzles in these books. It gives you something to do. It's like I used to love books that had mysteries or puzzles in them so I could figure it out maybe ahead of the characters in the book. We always try to leave enough time for the reader to figure out the puzzle before we give away the answer.
And that is something that I feel is so unique about you and your book is that they the reader could take ownership of your book because it's their book now and they can figure it out on their own and kind of shape their own narrative within the story. It's really awesome.
Yeah, that's another little trick I do sometimes. I don't describe my main characters too fully so the reader can see themselves in that role. You know what I mean? So it's like this is my story now. There's a little bit about Benji at this physical description, a little bit about his brother being this kind of athletic jock, but you can kind of like slide yourself into these characters and go on the journey as if it's happening to you.
So a bit earlier, you talked about the transition between, writing kid and adult books. I could ask you which do you prefer, but that's so cliche. I'm not going to do that to you.
No.
What
Well,
I
actually,
am,
I haven't written an adult book in about 10 years,
but
so
what I am gonna say is like, what was that thought process of like, I want to go back to my 10-year-old self, 11-year-old self, 12-year-old self, and kind of be a kid again.
Well, it kind of happened accidentally. I was writing a lot of grown-up stuff, and usually when you're starting out as a writer, I'll be honest, the first books you write are sort of imitations of writers that you admire. So one of the books of mine, I think the third one I wrote that was roundly rejected by everybody, was a ghost story, sort of a very Stephen Kingish ghost story. Then the fourth one I wrote was a murder mystery, and that became the John Cepak, and we did, I think, 9 books in that series. So that got published. That was my first published book and stuff. But while all that was out there, I have, like I said, 4 brothers, and they've all been married, and they all have a lot of kids. And all my nieces and nephews, who are like between the ages of 6 and maybe 15 at the time, are going, "Can we read your books, Uncle Chris? Can we read your books, Uncle Chris?" And I said, "Nope, not till you're 21, maybe even 25, because there's some adult stuff in there and adult language." And then my agent was at a party or something, and editor there wanted a ghost story for middle grade readers. And he remembered that I had written that ghost story, my Stephen King kind of thing. And he said, the editor read it and said, "This is great, but you have to cut it down from 110,000 words to like 40, 50,000 words, get rid of all the adult language and adult situations." A lot of work. And my agent said, "Do you want to do this?" And I said, "Yes, I've got 25 nieces and nephews who can't read anything that I've written." So I went in, and as I was working on that rewrite, I sort of called all my Mad magazines that I used to love as 12-year-olds and that sense of humor. And I had so much fun writing that book that when I was done, I said, maybe this is what I was supposed to be doing all along. So that's how I did it. I sort of stumbled into it accidentally, and I'm glad I did.
And we're so glad you did too, because I talked to a bunch of my friends who are librarians, and they were so excited that I was talking to you because
Oh, that's great to hear.
your books fly off the shelf. It's so great to kind of add to this Grabenstein world of content here. I love it.
Oh, great. Yeah, this is going to be, I think people are really going to like Miss Pennypickle. She's a little bit like Mr. Lemoncello, but different. So it's always like you want to do the same, but different, because everyone loves Mr. Lemoncello, but we did 7 books in that series. We're going to do one more. We're going to do a Christmas novella in 2026. But
We'd love to have you back on for that, by the way, if
yeah,
you're willing.
it's coming out in 2026. Uh, and also, I think the second Ms. Pennypickle book will be out in the fall of 2026 too. The books take so long to come out. It's like, when's this book coming out? So I think 2026 in the fall, we'll have some more exciting news too.
So I think Matt knows where I'm going with this next one. So typically when I talk to people in animation or in film or in any type of character-driven work, I always ask them, which character would be their best friend if you met them in person? And I want to pose that to you.
Ah, interesting. What would be my best friend? Well, Benji reminds me of myself a little bit, so can't be best friends with him. I think, maybe Ms. Pennypickle herself, because I'm a little older now, and she would be a wacky friend to hang out with. She's kind of an eccentric recluse, so I'm gonna go with Ms. PP, but don't call her Ms. PP. She doesn't like you when you do that. But Ms. Pennypickle.
Mm-mm.
I I I just love that you get paid to say things like Miss Pee.
Right. Me too.
It's like what are some of the more obviously your books are on the humorous side, but are there any comments that you've gotten from schools or teachers or even students that meant a lot to you that your book could bring this out as a child or something like that?
Yeah, there's some really a lot of the ones that touch me the most are ones I get. I remember one time I was sitting right here in my little office late at night, it's like 10 o'clock. I was probably playing a game or something, and in came an email from a girl who had just finished reading Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library, and she loved it. And that's great. We get a lot of emails like that. But then she sent me another email. You may not realize what a big deal this is. This is the first book I have ever been able to finish in my life. I'm 13 years old. Then now I'm like, oh, wow. Then 5 minutes after that email, I get an email from her parents. Like, we're dancing around in the house right now. We know it's late, but this is the first book she's ever read. You've made such a change in her life. Now she wants to read more books. So when you get those emails, it really like wow, you really help someone who is struggling to read. And again, it's like we say, there's no such thing as kids who don't like to read. There's kids who just haven't found the right book yet. And I'm always so glad when my book seems to hit the spot with kids who have had trouble finding something to read.
And you know, if I can, if I can kind of add a personal anecdote, I'm 30 years old, about to be 31. And if I had your book, and I know that Matt can attest to this too, we needed books like yours when we were younger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, but nowadays, I always tell kids you're living in the golden age of books written especially for you. So there's a lot of great things to choose from, like Stuart Gibbs and James Ponte and Gordon Corman and Grace Lynn. There's a lot of great stories out there. But yeah, growing up, I'm even older than you guys. We didn't get to read books. We had to read SRA when I was in school, which were color-coded essays, where if you read the blue ones and answered they're always like 5-page essays and then like 10 comprehension questions at the end. And it was like a game. You had to get through this whole
That
book.
sounds like a drag more than anything.
Yes.
I think they were training us to take SAT tests because I think it was modeled on that, that comprehension question thing. But anyhow,
But it's like and related to that, one of the things that I latched onto with not only this book, but I also read a couple of the Lemoncellos to prep for this, is the idea of championing the outsider, making sure that weird and eccentric are seen and valued and heard. Yeah, it's not right in your face like this inspiring tale, but it's baked into the story, and that's so important to me.
yeah, I try to bake that in. You might have read Mr. Lemoncello's very first game because that really is the whole theme of that. Because he's a lot like I was. When I wrote Mr. Lemoncello, is a middle child in a big family, and my two big brothers are doctors. My younger brother is a lawyer. My youngest brother's a doctor. And what about me? What am I going to do to stand out in this family? So I went a different way, and I think that's what I try to do in all the stories is embrace that there's all sorts of different ways, and we're all better when we work together.
So you kind of alluded to this a little bit ago, but what do you got coming up? Like, Are you doing any school visits, any
Yeah,
office?
in fact, I just went and got a COVID shot and a flu shot before I talk to you guys because I'm jumping back into school, famous germ swimming pools that they are. I'm going to do some school visits next week for the series that my wife and I write together called Stinky Stories, which is a stuffed skunk. There he is up on my shelf there. That's a puppet version of him. And those are
Oh,
for
nice.
kindergarten through like second, third grade. And those are fun. And we have a new one coming out called Moldy Locks and the Three Bears coming out next week. And also the last book, Mr. Lemoncello's Fantabulous Finale, will also be coming out as a paperback for the first time next week. And then in October, we've got Ms. Pennypickle's Puzzle Quest. Yay. And at that, in the same day, the second graphic novel in the Lemoncello series will come out, Mr. Lemoncello's Library Olympics.
So you're not busy at all.
No,
No.
nah. Next year, I'm already working on second Ms. Penny Pickles. Right now, we're calling it Miss Penny Pickles' Remarkable Road Race, another story. I won't want to give away the ending of the first book, but that's what inspires the second book. So I don't want to give away. It's kind of a surprise ending. I have to ask all your listeners when you know the ending to Miss Penny Pickles' Puzzle Quest, don't give it away because it's a surprise. And then next year also we'll have Mr. Lemoncello's Wondrous Christmas Gift, the novella. And I think there'll be another stinky story, Cinder Smella, will be coming out next year. So we got some things coming out.
And we'd love to have you back on for all of it.
All right. Yay.
This is the start of a new friendship, and literally from the minute I saw the cover of the book, it was like I knew I had to cover it, and then I saw a bunch of book reviewers just revering it and calling it this wonderful book. I had to get a copy. I read it, and I reached out to your publishers, and that's how it worked out. So
Oh.
I'm grateful.
Yeah, I've been reading some of the reviews on this thing called NetGalley, and some people say this might be better than Mr. Lemoncello. So that was kind of like, you're always a little afraid when you're leaving something.
You're like topping yourself up.
I know, but
Mhm.
it's always a little scary. Like you did something that's super popular, and like, can you do it again? And I think Miss Penny Pickle might be able to do it.
So, as an author, what brings you the most joy?
The school visits, they're exhausting. You got to fly, you got to travel. But when you go to these schools, the kids treat you like a rock star. They're like so excited to see you and talk about your books and stuff. So that gets me really, that keeps me going. That's a lot of fun to do those. So I'm looking forward to spending some time, especially now with the younger kids. Even the kindergarten kids they're wild. So that's a lot of fun. So I like meeting the kids, and I like meeting the kids who remind me of myself when I was that age, who sometimes bring me like, here's a book or a comic book that they're working on and they want to show it to me, and we talk about what they're working on and how to make it better. So that's a lot of fun for me.
Well, if you're ever in the Long Island area or Baltimore area for Matt, we'd love to meet up with you. So we know that you love whimsical and wacky and fun anecdotes. So Matt is also a puppeteer,
Ah,
Yes, I am.
and his puppet read your book as well.
oh, really? Well, one of my great experiences, maybe that humor and heart stuff comes from the fact that when I first moved to New York City, I did some freelance writing for Jim Henson and the Muppets. And I got to meet Jim Henson once. And I remember he said, "What lesson is this script teaching kids? Because kids are going to take away a lesson from it. So make sure you know what the lesson is that you intend for them to take away, so you have a chance of getting that through."
What did you work on? We know a lot of those people.
Well, it was first I started out working for something called Dial a Muppet. I remember back in the days when there were these 976 numbers you could call and get the weather and sports. And these were Dial a Muppet, and you'd call up and a Muppet would talk to you for like a minute.
That's awesome. You probably knew our buddy Jim Lewis,
Maybe. And
because
then
Jim
Michael
Lewis did all that crazy, did all the Muppet magazine stuff, and
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And Michael Frith, who did Fraggle Rock, said liked what I did on those Dial Muppets, so they asked me to work on a show called The Little Muppet Monsters, which were about the Muppet monsters that lived in the basement of the Muppet house and did a show that they broadcast for the Muppets upstairs.
That's short cut.
Didn't that only last like
A
3 or
couple
4 episodes?
Yeah.
Back in 85. That's
Yeah, it was the first time Jim Henson had written directly for a network. Up until that point, everything had been, he did it, you syndicated it, you ran it on your local station at 7 or whatever. And this was the first time he had to do with network and legal departments. And he wasn't happy. Oh, here's your puppet. Here we go.
Hi, there he is. Hello.
Hi.
For those of you listening, this is
we'll
Marty
post a video
couple-
too.
Oh yeah. If you're listening on audio, he's an orange monster with a green nose. That's all you really need to know. Yep.
Good
Simple.
handle.
Yes. Even my hands are stitched. Whatever. Love the book. The book is absolutely fantastic. We've had a lot of fun reading it. It really is just a wonderful, wonderful book. Can't wait for people to read it. I think they're really going to enjoy it.
Do you think there are any room for puppets like Marty in the next one?
There might be. That's actually a good idea. Marty, have your agent call my agent and we'll,
Okay. We'll work something out. Yeah. We'll absolutely work something out.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be more good book and there needs to be more puppet.
Well, what we do with that puppet up there, my wife is pretty good puppeteer and she's a voiceover performer in addition to being a wonderful author. And she has the voice of Stinky. So when I go to school, we did some videotape clips of where Stinky and I interact. And as you probably know, doing puppets for kids, they think the puppet is real. I was doing a school presentation once and a kid came up, holding up his hand to give me a high five. And I went to go slap it, but he didn't want to give me a high five. He wanted to say, "Where's Stinky?" Like, where he was in that box just a second ago. Where is he? I want to slap 5 with Stinky. So that's Stinky. He goes on the road with us.
It's funny for those of you who are not really in the puppetry world, it's funny when people put these puppets on, you're not focusing on the person, you're focusing on the puppet, as you should.
Yeah.
As you should, because we're the main attraction now. Forget the humans, we are the main attraction.
Right. That was great when they did Avenue Q on Broadway, that people all dressed in black and they were right there with the puppets. Yeah. But, maybe the first couple of seconds you looked at the people, but then you got over it.
Yeah.
The puppet rules.
Does Stinky ever have the kids put their hands inside their mouth? That's a very common thing. Do they ever have, their hands go inside like kids have inside their mouths and stuff like that? Does that happen a lot?
We haven't mastered the art of the rods. You're good with the art of the rods with the hands. So,
it takes quite a bit of practice.
Yeah.
Once you get it down, you'll get it down.
We typically pose them like this or like this.
Now, it's very common for us, especially since I have no teeth, and I don't think Stinky does either from the looks of it. Uh-huh. It's very common for kids to put, for whatever reason, to put their hands inside our mouths. I don't understand it, but I guess assuming that because we have no teeth, I guess.
But I don't know. We don't take the real puppet too often. We mostly have Stinky appears on video. On the big screen in the middle of my presentation.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe it might be a good thing. I mean, it'd be cool, but it also might be a good thing for that reason.
Yeah, we almost took it to the Chappaqua Book Festival. And we said, it might get out of hand.
Well,
literally.
Yeah,
literally.
I honestly think that Marty could have fit right into this book.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be a lot of fun. I think, solving all these puzzles, not bungee jumping.
Although I would like to see you bungee jumping, Marty. Not gonna lie.
Really? I mean, I could. What do they call those? Cliff jumping or whatever it's called with the parachute.
Yeah,
I could do that.
Yeah.
Parasailing. Couldn't remember the term of it. Yeah, I could do that. That looks like a lot of fun. Bungee jumping, that's a whole different. That's a different story.
I'm so glad that Marty, you got to hang out. But Chris,
it's always nice to be here.
Chris, this has been such a joy. And where can people check out this book. It'll be out. Our episode will be out in a couple weeks prior to the book
Yeah, it
coming
comes out in mid-October, October 14th. And my website, chrisgrabenstein.com, has its Ms. Pennypickle page. And if you press the buttons for pre-order or ordering, it'll go to the Random House. My wonderful publisher has a page, and you can pick whatever store you want to buy it at. So, yeah, you can get it at any bookstore and all the online places. So, yeah, it'll be out there.
Well, again, thanks so much. This has been great. And I hope we get to talk again soon.
I
Oh,
do
we will.
too. Yeah,
We will.
definitely. Next year when the Christmas books come out, definitely we have to do that.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks you guys.
Bye.
Keep
Bye.
puppeting. All right, bye-bye.